Alright, hey, welcome everyone to Kerbal 1.7.3. I made a really bad video about making an airplane. It's over complex, a few extra parts I don't need. I didn't have any science on it. It was a mess, so I'm going to redo it, and it's going to be a more basic airplane. This is the fourth mission, or like I like to call it 3B, because it's not a space mission. It's just a way to pick up a few extra science points. That's kind of an understatement. There's actually about, I don't even want to guess, hundreds, 200, 300 science points, and they're laying right at our fingertips, at our very feet, you know. While we're jaunting off into space, we're neglecting our immediate environment. And isn't that naughty of us as scientists? Okay, so if this is not backward and I'm not inverted, this is a t-shirt. This is up to me. And if you see the triangle pointing upward, this has a lot of symbolic meaning. This is about a concept called discernment and agency, and about free will. And of course, discernment is if you're correctly interpreting the events of your life. And man, when everyone knows so many wrong things and half-truths and nothing at all about some things, it's really difficult to get us all together all at the same time without like mass confusion. And we did a study in 1979 that found that our brains are in love with themselves, and it's really a problem because we don't like new ideas unless they're ours. And you see that stuff all the time in life and work, and people judging when they're not supposed to. And we are allowed to judge. We're allowed to judge ourselves, okay? Not others. We can judge our parents, and our parents can judge children. That's part of the family process. Free agency and free will sometimes is relinquished to the loving family, loving friend, and loving father. That's a choice in itself when you say, man, I just give up. I'm going to let you tell me what to do. What do you want me to do? And that's a real good thing when you're in a confrontation with someone, whether it's at work, in public. Always, 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 if the person is receptive enough, if their logical brain works, you just ask them, please tell me, what would you like me to do? And then you pause and listen. And you're not giving up your power. What you're doing is you're actually empowering the situation to a better compromise, rather than two people butting heads and arguing and getting bad attitudes and resentment and regret and all that stuff that you don't need. It's just, how can I help? You don't even have to promise a solution. If it's totally unreasonable, you can take that as it comes, and you can always just say, I will try, and walk away from it till you can come back to a better discussion, if that's possible. Anyway, just a little life advice. That's what the shirt means up to me. Free agency. The right to operate by the dictates of my own conscience, not the directives of others. Not some purpose in the universe or God either, but self-driven. Okay? Now, you can have duty to the universe and the environment and all that. That's fantastic. But that's a choice too. So, really, basically, when it comes down to it, all the great philosophers say life is a series of choices. If you want to be happy and healthy and productive, we would like to think you're making the right ones. Other than that, we are prisoners in our own body, our own minds, and our own environment and culture. But other than that, in just about every social agency there is, we try to be as free as possible. And when it's impossible, we at least like to have our voice. Hallelujah. Thank you, YouTube. or whatever format, whatever you have to say. But I have a scientific mind, so I have the right to disagree and say, let's talk about that logically. I like to think it's open. That's better than being shut. So anyway, we're going to get right on to our good airplane building video. And of course, it's the same KSP2. We're real early in the career mode, mission 3B. Alright, anytime you want to read anything, just pause. I don't have time to slow down. So, because of right here, let me move my face for a minute. I can't. Anyway, if you look at this when you play your game, or I'm sorry, when you preform your missions on your edutainment simulation programming, I don't want to use the word game because I incidentally learned so much, and then I'm actually go and study space history and watch like Everyday Astronaut and other people play Kerbal, and I learn a lot, and it just hadn't quit. And 5,000 hours later, I consider myself a space enthusiast and an everyday astronaut. Not an everyday astronaut like that Tim guy that probably gets paid by astronaut, you know, the one that almost killed himself because he bought a Russian spacesuit. Little advice to anyone. You ever have a pressure suit and you don't know what you're doing, do not put it on. I mean, sure, you can put the body on. You can put the helmet on. But do not latch the neck ring. Do not close your air. About suffocated himself to death. He couldn't get himself out. He locked the neck ring and couldn't get it unlocked. And he didn't have his air conditioning. He didn't have the system. His tubes. And man, he feels like an idiot too. He's made a video about it. And he should. He about died. Anyway, that's kind of why I'm getting tense now. I apologize. Oh yeah, look how nice it fits. Anyway, I apologize. But this, you know, space and flying is serious stuff. You can die. So, don't attach the neck ring. Now he runs around, he puts on this spacesuit, takes his picture in front of these really cool space places. He travels, he spent money, it was his hobby. I don't know what he does for a living, but he was doing this on the weekend, and I think, and I do not hold me to this, but I think NASA contacted him and they said, we think people like you. And now I think they pay him to promote positivity in space. I know he has all kinds of access, so he's at least famous. I got to see him try on the new spacesuit. The one NASA, or excuse me, Boeing developed. Really cool looking. Anyway, kind of modern and sleek. Now it wasn't an EVA suit; it was an internal suit. So, anyway, the super simple craft. I could do that two ways. I could actually put one of these on too. But it will fly with that, but you don't really have a cockpit view. So that's on for a reason. I'm gonna just try to get this video made. Oh, by the way, I have to turn my volume down over here. Okay, I had it down. You'll get some terrible noise because I've got it piped through the back channel too. So I'm going to do something now that's a bit unusual, and what I'm going to do is put oxidizer in, even though I'm not making a space plane, and I'm going to remove it now, but I have the other. I can put oxidizer in here in the future, and what that'll allow me to do is yank the jet engine off and slap a rocket on the back of that and turn this into a little mini space plane. So that's kind of like the pre-designed decision that I've come up with. Wow, look at that. I better reattach that. There we go. So I didn't expect this rudiment. Okay, so I'm actually breaking my rules again. I forget. Usually I'm not limited because I get past this real quick by the third mission, and then off I go to like planets that are like Mars called Duna, and planets that are God, there's this big purple planet with intense gravity. It's just beautiful. I love to go there. It's called Eve, and what a nice name for the most beautiful purple planet in the Kerbalverse. So I feel like I'm chattering and I'm gonna run the video over time. So alright, so I just put 2 tubes up. I slapped an engine on the back. That's temporary. I want to find what I call an adapter, something like this, but not a big adapter, but a small adapter. But I may not have it in this stage, so we may just have to go ugly. If I go ugly, it keeps my part count down, by the way. So this is called a delta wing. And I probably want to put that back as far as the engine, maybe more. And then by pressing that, I can have 2, which I don't like that. That's too low. So what I do is I put it up here and then push the Q button. And that flipped it 90 degrees. And now look what I have there. Okay, so this is going to be called my yaw wing. So we have pitch, yaw, and roll. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm remaking the video. I didn't like the video before. It was overcomplicated and I was confused and I don't know what I was talking about. I mean, I did, but it's all jumbled up and it was long. This one's already too long. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to make this just a pure pitch wing. So I have yaw and pitch in the rear. And these really don't apply much to flight dynamics. What they're doing is creating a situation where the center of mass and the center of lift are not on top of each other. So without these, they kind of are. So that's the center of mass, and this is what we call the center of lift. And you can see if the center of lift is behind the center of mass, now you have a forward flying aircraft that you can control. Alright, that's the basic rule. Whoa, too big. So I like this little wing connector E here. And the general idea is to put this wing in the this wing that causes lift in the center of mass. And by the way, this changes as the gas tank's empty. An airplane should be optimized to fly full. I don't know if I can have both these wings. I need to check my part count later, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the building process. So I do the S button. So I got my locks on. So you can flip around the W, S, D keys and you can see it's changing these. So that's the one we want right there. Now once you get it, just reach over and hold the alternate key and press down and grab another one and apply, and then grab another one and apply. Alright, so what we have now is, since we've put this wing in, you can see that it's drawn the center of lift back. So I'm going to turn these off for a moment, but just before I do that, I'm going to memorize where the center of lift is. The center of mass, I kind of like that towards the, see right on the aileron, the elevator, the flap. There's a lot of different names for that. So I want to show you what happens when I empty the rear tank. See it move forward. So then I want to show you what happens when I empty this tank. It just moves forward a little bit. So let's fill them both back up. And then we're going to empty this one all by itself. And see, it just moves that a little bit. So what I think might be best is if this tank burns out first. Let's look at that one again. See, that's a big jump. Now you're up in the center of the wing. And You're going to be a little nose heavy, and you're going to want to come down when you're like that. So I'm thinking, since this one has less effect, we should make this one the first tank to burn. Like, put a little plus sign right there. Now this tank will burn out before this one even starts. So when this tank's done burning, it just moves a little bit, and then we know that our flight dynamics for every gallon are going to decrease as we get closer to our destination. But the good thing is our airplane's going to have a tendency to come down, which is exactly what we want to do. So anyway, so now that we've got our fuel setup done, I'm going to attach some legs, and that's these stupid legs. I don't have retractable gear. Unfortunately, these things cause what we call drag, and drag is not good for us. Alright, so I'm going to turn that on, and I'm just going to stick those in the middle, because what that does is makes them straight and level, and then we'll fix those in just a second. Then I'm just going to take one of these. I actually have experimented with two wheels on the front, and the dynamics of driving on the ground are much better than your triangular configuration. I'm just throwing that out there, that I think just about anything you see in modern aircraft, the Cessna 172, even the big heavy Boeings and Airbuses, are already obsolete in the way they've set them up, and they're very quickly going to be out the door. The only thing is they cost so much, they'll milk them, for years after, just like they do with propeller planes in Alaska now. Alright, so what I've done is I've lowered this fixed landing gear. I'd rather have detachable landing gear. I want to make sure that I take the steering off this front. Steering disabled. And adjust these flaps just like I adjusted the back. Like, this is going to be a pitch only. Now remember, pitch, yaw, and roll. Pitch is when we go up and down. And roll is when we do this. And yaw, which Europe calls a rudder, is when we flip like this. And the reason we have to have yaw is because if the wind hits us in the right direction, or our propeller spins and starts to make us travel in a curved direction, we need to correct for that. So like, if I have a wind coming in and hitting me right in the head at a 45-degree angle like this, and I'm flying like this, what my plane wants to do, because of all these wing configurations we just did, is turn into the wind. So now what's happening is I'm flying that way and I'm turned this way. So we need the rudder pedal, or the yaw, and you correct it with your feet, but some new fly-by-wire configurations have actually attached it to a twist on a joystick, and it could actually be automated. And if you're in a propeller plane, then you're going to have a 3-degree fixed yaw. God, what am I trying to call that? Anyway, it's an adjustment where you fix your yaw 3 degrees, and then it's just stuck there. So it just turns your propeller. And it's really evident if you watch a movie with World War I aircraft. You can see the guys having to manually adjust their yaw, and some of them do not even have a yaw. Crop dusters don't. Some old crop dusters don't. They just have pitch and roll. So you have to learn to fly with just pitch and roll and turn the yaw. But right now we have yaw. Anyway, all right. So now we're going to go back to turning our yaw off, and we can make that pitch only, and then just make this one roll only. Or we can make them both pitch and roll. That'd be working together. Now that would have to be fly-by-wire with some type of multi-computerized control if we want the basic craft, and maybe that's a better idea. We turn the roll off here, you turn the pitch off there. Now you could set all this up with cables, since each flap does one thing. We don't have anything complicated here. I'm going to get my part count. I have 10 parts I can put on. So there's some things that are a good idea. And this is for science. That's the barometer. Let's put on 2 of these. And the reason I want to put 2 of these on is for balance. You get stuff, you know, you put one on one side and that balance would be good. Oh goodness. Okay, let's put 2 on each side. Balance would be good for spacecraft, but in the event that we're flying in atmosphere, not only do you need balance, but you also need to have equal drag right and left. If I just put one on one side other than the other, it would drag, and I could stick one on the bottom, and it might actually put drag on the bottom. It's going to hit here, and your aircraft's going to have a tendency to go up. Could be a bad thing. It could be catastrophic. So I want to make a quick check here that my landing gear is still under the center of lift. If I had my way, I might lower this wing a little. I raised this one. So let's turn this off and look at some stuff. I'm going to turn everything on. And can you see that basically there's a center line here running from my center of mass through my center of thrust, which is in the rear in this case. Sometimes it's right under the wing. Sometimes it's right here, 2 on each side. That's my other video was too complex because it had extra gas tanks and extra engines and a parachute. Anyway, so what am I talking about? I want to take that and move this wing down until I get all 3 in a line. Okay, now my speculation is this airplane will fly. You just watch me build it. This is raw footage, no camera tricks. God, I hope I'm not going into 27 minutes, and I don't know if this will be a good video. I hope there's nothing messed up about it. Alright, so I'm turning all this stuff off, and we also already had an aircraft called AC1. I'm going to call this AC2 just so we know the difference, and I'm going to hit save. And if I was smart, because look, I can have an extra part. I have a Science Junior here, and probably without changing anything we can throw it right in there. Now let's just look. The only thing I see is it looks like we need to move our wing forward now. So we're right there. And that has also changed this. And I also noticed, you may have not seen it, but it looks like this space between here and here is different. Something's not working right for me, so I'm going to smidge this wing back just a little bit, like that. Now we're gonna, I think it's gonna fly. I just have a little micro problem, but I don't want to talk about it. It's too detailed, and it's that I'm trying to move this landing gear forward and it won't move beyond this part I attached it to. So I need to reattach it to that part, and it's going to take too much time. And I think I'm really close to what I want to achieve. And now that we've set the fuel tank flow properly, and this is going to have a low variation until the end of the flight, I'm not really worried about my comfort in cruise. So let's save and attempt to fly. Now we're going to have Jebediah, and I wish there was a way I could tell how long this video is, because I've lost track. But anyway, the reason we're here is to collect all this science. I told you we could pick up a little bit of science along the way. And this is called the runway. And you notice everything's here. And I'm going to do my materials study. And at this point, I get to do an EVA. And was I smart enough to upgrade the building before I did this? I don't know if I had the money, but had I done that, I could actually take a surface sample. So let's look and see what our Kerbal's doing. He's wearing the wrong spacesuit, that's for sure. I'll board him back up. Jebediah, why aren't you in the modern gear? Alright, so we'll stop it, and we're going to instantly recover the vessel. Instantly. We didn't even fly. That was just like, I don't know, a bounce test. So that was 20 science points earned. So yeah, see, I couldn't have all right, this is can collect surface samples, and I need 451,000 to do that. Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about different things. Anyway, okay, so let's go back in because we want to see if this thing flies, right? The reason I went back in and collected the airplane, we reset all the